Formula One on 5 Live.
Hello and welcome to another warm day here in Austin, Texas. We're at the Circuit of the Americas for the US Grand Prix and we're getting ready for the sprint shootout. It is Sprint Saturday. Yesterday we had qualifying which set the grid for Sunday's US Grand Prix, and today we scrap that and we go again with a sprint shootout and a sprint race later on. It was Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari who took pole yesterday, so he'll start from pole position tomorrow. Does that mean he could take top spot as well in the sprint race? All will become clear in the next hour or so. The sprint shootout could provide opportunities for teams to improve on yesterday, maybe a little bit of redemption here or there, and maybe Max Verstappen, who got pinged for track limits during qualifying yesterday, will resume the top spot once again in the next coming hour. Joining me, Rosanna Tennant, down here in the F1 paddock is our lead commentator and former Formula One driver, Jolyon Palmer. He's in the commentary box alongside racing driver Alice Powell and the BBC's chief F1 writer, Andrew Benson. Jolyon, pole for Charles Leclerc yesterday, is 21st pole position. But does it look likely that he can repeat that today, given what we saw yesterday and given that Max Verstappen, I'm sure, will now keep everything within the white lines?
Well, he was superb yesterday, wasn't he, Leclerc, in the Ferrari? Got himself to pole position, which was nice to see after he's been having this little fight with Carlos Sainz, and Sainz has been the star man in the red squad in the last few races. So Leclerc was back, but it was so close, Rosanna. Norris and Hamilton were both within a tenth and a half, and of course Verstappen was actually quicker than Leclerc yesterday by 5 thousandths and had his lap time deleted. So really, from 4 teams, it's still wide open.
Yeah, it's looking nice for tomorrow's grid, isn't it? With Charles Leclerc ahead of Lando Norris, as you say, Lewis Hamilton P3 ahead of Carlos Sainz P4 and George Russell P5. Max Verstappen outside the top 5, starting P6 tomorrow. But this track is an interesting one. It's a challenging one, isn't it, Alice? You've raced here. What do the drivers need to be mindful of? I mean, we've mentioned track limits. There are other challenges. It's pretty bumpy out there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very bumpy. Probably one of the bumpiest tracks on the calendar if you're going to exclude the street circuits that they visit. There's so many factors around this track and so many different types of corners. For example, we've got really fast flowing sector 1, which you could say is based on sort of Maggots Beckett's at Silverstone. You've then got a tricky hard braking zone down at turn 12, which is where a DRS zone is as well. And then you've got that fast double right-hander, or you could say it's a triple right-hander if you go with the track map, down in that final sector. So it's very difficult. Track limits, as we've mentioned, can catch people out. Max Verstappen is one of those, but it looks like, we'll have to wait until we see the pictures, but I'm pretty sure that they've widened that white line at turn 19 overnight, and a couple of people that I spoke to that ran the track said, yeah, they were out there painting it. So we'll have a look for that. Jolyon, you mentioned there was some kind of meeting yesterday. Do you know more on that? Is that the reason why they've widened it, because of the fine margins with Verstappen yesterday?
Well, there's always a drivers' meeting on a Friday, usually after practice, but after qualifying on a sprint weekend. And track limits are always a discussion point, not least because it decided pole position yesterday with Max having that lap time deleted. I don't like tweaking the track, painting a wider white line. You're absolutely right, Alice. It is pretty much double the width now, maybe even a little bit more. I personally don't understand it. I think it's a poor complaint from the drivers. Everyone else managed to keep their best lap within the white lines. I think for the entire session, I think Hulkenberg lost one early on, but it was no improvement. I think Verstappen was the only man to lose a lap time, and he was 30 kilometers an hour quicker than Leclerc through that corner. So he was chancing his arm. He made a mistake earlier in the lap, and now they changed the rules for it. Seems a bit much.
Did Lando Norris lose one a bit earlier on in the session? I feel like he was
I think he did,
someone who came a cropper as well. So maybe
it was a used tyre for Norris, and it wasn't particularly quick, but you're right, he did lose one as well.
So maybe he was
Max,
complaining.
Max actually put his hands up and say, yeah, I did. I messed up. It was fine margins. I went over the white line. So it's the way it is, but obviously, you know, if something else was said probably in that drivers' meeting, that
it's said, a bit naff, isn't it? Paint the white line wider so that people won't do it so much. Just stay in the lines.
At least we haven't had to have a familiarisation session this weekend so that they know where they can put the car at turn 19. So lots to look out for in this sprint shootout. George Russell was a driver struggling yesterday. Okay, fine, he managed to qualify P5, but wasn't comfortable with the car, blaming himself actually, really, rather than the car. car. Andrew, what have you seen in the data? Where's it getting away from him compared to Lewis Hamilton this weekend?
Well, he doesn't know, George Russell. He just said he was off the pace and he couldn't explain why. It was an odd one for him. It's one of those weekends, Rosanna, because it's a sprint weekend, they get one session to build up to qualifying, and it either goes right or it doesn't, and one example of that would be Oscar Piastri at McLaren, who he's a rookie, he's never been here before, but McLaren's strategy for tyres was to sort of rear load the tyre allocation, if you like. So they only did one run each, Norris and Piastri, in the practice session, and so maybe that was an influence in Piastri making a mistake on his qualifying lap at the end of the session and ending up at the back end of the top 10 rather than the front end like Norris. So Russell, similar sort of thing. If you don't get it right in that first practice session, then there's no way to come back from that.
No, absolutely. And actually, Oscar Piastri saying, if we leave out the mistakes come the sprint shootout, we should be okay. You should be able to get a better result because the pace is pretty solid, and that is what we've seen from the McLaren over the last few races, haven't we? They are podium contenders and maybe even a race win contender again on the Sunday this time, perhaps. Well, I think we've got cars heading out on track, ready for the sprint shootout. The time is ticking down. I hand it over to our lead commentator, Jolyon Palmer, up in the commentary box.
We do indeed have a flurry of cars out into the fray for this 12-minute SQ1 session. So the first part of this qualifying is just 12 minutes. They have to run the medium tyres. SQ2, the second part, will be 10 minutes. Again, will be mandated to use the medium tyres. Then we'll have an 8-minute showdown later on in SQ3 for the sprint pole later on. And that is the shortened format of this sprint qualifying 44 minutes that we have. And so everyone now out on the circuit on the medium tyres. The temperature a little bit cooler today, 32 degrees. Must be a little bit more pleasant for you down there, Rosanna, than it was baking in the afternoon of yesterday.
Yeah, a little marginal, I'd have to say.
Small gains. That's what Formula One's all about, the incremental gains. And everyone's going to have to learn about this then, the medium tyre in a shortened weekend. They've got to be getting on top of this because not only this first part, but the second part, we didn't see any big scalps in the first two parts of qualifying yesterday, but with this change of tyre, I guess it's a new game for everyone.
Well, I think I would argue that there was one big scalp, which was Fernando Alonso going out in the Aston Martin in Q1. He was quite critical of the way they'd run their day yesterday, saying we need to start the day again. Basically, they'd made so many mistakes through it. So it'd be interesting to see. He was saying that the lap he did to be 17th was a reflection of the pace of the car. Then we'll see whether he can do something a bit different. But you wouldn't expect. I don't think he's not been out of Q1 all year, so it's obviously an outlier for Aston Martin and him particularly.
He was fairly scathing of the way that they're going at the moment, wasn't he? I sense with Fernando, he's starting to feel a bit of frustration. It was all happy families at the start of the year at Aston Martin.
Well, I was speaking to Mark Webber this morning, and he was saying Fernando could have an argument with himself. And I think that's.
You wouldn't have thought it at the start of the year, though, when he was mates with everyone again. It was a very odd time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's obviously a little bit frustrated. I think that when you catch him in a slightly calmer mode, he's still very positive about Aston Martin. Still talks about it being a dream season. They are, at the end of the day, still fourth in the Constructors' Championship at the moment. He's still fourth in the Drivers' Championship, which, considering where the car is competitively at the moment, is remarkable, really. So he's still dragging results out of it, but they've definitely tailed off, and we've talked about it before in the course of this weekend. There's obviously creeping concern about that because they've got an upgrade on the car this weekend, and the mistakes that they made in practice yesterday over lunchtime meant that they couldn't get the car set up properly around that upgrade, so they've got question marks about that, which will be increasing the concerns they've got.
Lost a bit of track time in the only practice hour as well. Certainly Lance Stroll barely getting a run, and Stroll really on the back foot. He'll be one of the drivers that will be desperate to try and make it through this SQ1 after his rotten form. 5 Q1 exits in a row. That was the son of Lewis Hamilton on his first flying lap with a set of medium tyres on, coming through turn 19. It will be fascinating, Alice, to see if track limits is now no longer an issue with a wider white line there.
I mean, yeah, I can't see it really being an issue down there at turn 19, as Hamilton, he's the first person to set a time. But just going back to the qualifying yesterday, Alex Albon, I feel like he will be someone that would want to try and make sure that he would hop into the shootout 2, as we call it in this session, because he had that lockup, didn't he, going into turn 1 yesterday, so he'd be looking forward to go further up the field. And the sound you can hear now is Lando Norris, as a cracking lap from him yesterday. I was really impressed with the job that he did to pull out that time in sort of the last dying minutes of that qualifying session.
Yeah, rides the curve a little bit through turn 19. One more corner to go, the Andretti, the final corner at turn 20, and Norris will get a lap time on the board on the mediums. He goes into second, just behind Lewis Hamilton. And with 6 minutes 35, 34, 33 seconds left on the clock. This one comes pretty thick and fast, doesn't it? Only 6 drivers with a time so far. Albon comes through and goes third. And yeah, Williams disappointed to have both drivers out in Q1. Also, Nico Hulkenberg out in Q1 yesterday. Haas looking much quicker, and Nico very frustrated. He's up into 5th place of the 8 so far who have completed a lap. Leclerc comes through in the Ferrari. Pole sitter for tomorrow goes to the top of the times. And Max Verstappen now just winding up his first flyer on the mediums.
One thing we saw yesterday was track evolution was really big, wasn't it? There's been more support races out earlier on today. We think we had the Porsches, F1 Academy, and I think the Historics were just before this F1 session. So it doesn't look like any of those have broken down or dropped oil. But the sound you can hear is Max Verstappen, who has a lightning first sector, just over 2/10 quicker than Charles Leclerc.
The Historics are usually the antichrist for track evolution. Everyone rubbers it in, then the Historics go out and drop all the oil and gunk on the circuit. But so far it looks okay. And Leclerc top of the times from Sykes now in second place. Hamilton and Norris third and fourth. Albon fifth. It's the sound of Max Verstappen, who's 2/10 to the good in the first sector. Sweeps around Lando Norris's McLaren, who's on a cool down lap as he comes down towards turn 12 and smashes the brake pedal 100 metres from the corner. Turns it in. Hamilton was sliding a lot on his opening lap on the mediums. He's still done quite a decent first lap. Verstappen 3/10 up on Charles Leclerc, who's at the top of the times, threading his way now through 13, 14 and slowing it down for turn 50. Accelerating up, flat to the floor through the quadruple apex corner now, coming towards the final 2. Turn 19, where he went over track limits, and he's very easy on track limits now. You've got to get a time on the board. 4 minutes and 40 seconds left to go, so it really does sneak up on you. If you lose a lap time in this one, you're going to be really under the cosh on your one set of medium tyres, but Verstappen doesn't. He dips into the 1 minute 35s, and he's 3/10 clear of Charles Leclerc now.
Yeah, we're just going to wait and see where Perez, who did lack a little bit yesterday, didn't he, compared to Max, and he still does now. He pops up into P5, but 3.5 tenths off his teammate, who's sitting at the top of the time. So they'll be pushing Perez along, as they kind of have really this second half of the season. But a couple of standouts. George Russell, he's ahead of Lewis Hamilton, so he's sitting in P4. Lewis down in 7th. As the sound you can hear now is Oscar Piastri, who of course will be looking for a slightly more improved qualifying compared to yesterday.
Piastri, the hero of sprint qualifying last night out in Qatar. Here's George Russell.
Sure, I can hear you on the lap. Don't know what's going on, but I can hear all the engineers.
Sounds like they've left the radio on then, someone in the garage, and Russell's there trying to drive around. You said he's done a good job. He's up in 4th place, but you can hear a bit of chitter-chatter from the background there as he's driving. So politely telling them all to shut up, and the engineer saying, come into the pits, it's all looking good, and come into the pits. I'll see you, Rosanna.
Yeah, hopefully not in the fast lane. Interesting that George Russell's saying he can hear all the engineers on his team radio, because right at the start of the session, Lewis Hamilton was saying, hello, I can't hear you, I can't hear you. So maybe Mercedes have had a little glitch with their team radio. Lewis then managed to hear his race engineer, Peter Bonington. So yes, maybe just a little moment for them with their tech and communications.
Not ideal in such a short session, but both drivers are looking comfortable so far. Russell 4th, Hamilton 7th. More drivers crossing the line. Norris improves to go 8th in the McLaren. Did a great job, as you said, to get up onto the front row for qualifying yesterday. May have a decent chance in the race with some soft tyres to use as well. But right now on the mediums, McLaren down in 8th, Piastri 11th with a point to prove as well. So the bottom 5 with 2.5 minutes to go in the elimination zone is Bottas, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Stroll down there once again in the Aston Martin, and Sargent propping up the times again. They've got to find a bit of a lap. Alonso on the bubble, 15th at the moment, so he's not found a huge amount of pace, but right now with sneak through, 2 minutes 20 left on the clock, everyone has one more flyer to put together.
George just carried up. They told him to box, didn't they, George?
They did.
He's just carried on going very slowly across the start-finish line, so not sure what's going on there, but that is very distracting. I've had people talk over the radio before. They've left the key on and then been discussing amongst themselves, and you're just like, turn it off, please, just turn it off. You're just trying to concentrate. Yeah, it's not ideal. So I understand George's complaints there.
You just want laser focus when you're in the especially in a qualifying situation. You've got to put it all together. There's so much going on, and just hearing background noise is not ideal. But Russell then has stayed out, as you said. Plenty of drivers have come into the pits and have gone out with a new set of tyres. Yuki Tsunoda, Alex Albon, they are 13th, 12th for Albon. Hulkenberg 14th. Alonso has stayed out there in 15th. But Bottas, Magnussen, Ricciardo and Sargent, all from the drop zone, have come in. Russell radios and says it's all good now on the communication stake, so he's much happier. And so Stroll, both Aston Martins, staying out there on one set of tyres and winding it up for one final flyer right now. Lance Stroll into the first sector. Alex Albon winds up a lap as well from 12th position. He'll surely have to improve, because we saw yesterday the track evolution was pretty big.
That surprised me that the Aston Martins have decided to stay in, because we saw yesterday that you didn't really get much out of a second lap. You'd go, you do your lap, you'd have a cool lap and go again. But the soft tyres especially were just really giving up the second half of the lap. So I imagine it's going to be pretty tough for the two Aston Martin drivers to improve. But Alex Albon's doing a good job at the moment. He's a few hundredths off Max Verstappen currently.
Albon piecing it together well. This is the sound on board the Williams. On the brakes for turn 11, long straight coming up. He's got an armful of lock, understeering a bit to the apex, oversteering slightly on the exit, but it's a decent first sector for him. Lance Stroll also is improving, putting two good sectors together in the Aston Martin, down in 19th place at the moment. Zhou has come across the line in the Alfa Romeo and jumped up to 9th place. That's a target for everyone else, to try and get towards the Alfa Romeo driver. And we'll see, Fernando Alonso has to put in a lap as well. Stroll arcing round now, the quadruple right-hander into turn 19. You've got to be careful on track limits, and Lance Stroll is quite conservative on that on the exit. Sainz goes up to third, he's safe in the Ferrari. Stroll now out of the final corner, drives to the line, opens the DRS and jumps up to 10th. Much better lap for Lance Stroll, just in behind Zhou. And we will see now, that dumps Alonso into the so, but here comes Fernando Alonso, the Spaniard, to the line, up to 6th. So the track is evolving pretty quickly, and Yuki Tsunoda could be in trouble. He's come across the line, currently in 15th place. Albon jumps to 3rd. Huge lap for the Williams.
Yeah, this track is really evolving. Look at the timing screen. All sorts of colours flying about, mainly greens, which means a personal best. So who's going to be at risk? When we saw, was it Max Verstappen was sitting there in 5th yesterday in Q1, and they were even worried. They said he's on the bubble. So anyone really who started 10th is not safe.
Piastri comes through and only goes 14th. That's not great for a McLaren. Magnussen is out, Tsunoda is out, Bottas, Ricciardo and Sargent are the three men that can still improve. Bottas does, but he's out, 17th for the Alfa Romeo. What about Ricciardo? What about Logan Sargent? The American comes through now, only goes 19th. He is also out. So it's Ricciardo or Nico Hulkenberg, and Daniel Ricciardo gets through up into 15th. He's beaten Yuki Tsunoda today, and that drops Hulkenberg out once again in the Haas. It's two Haas drivers out, then Hulkenberg and Magnussen with a 10th splitting the two of them. Magnussen with an identical time to Valtteri Bottas, the two of them out. Yuki Tsunoda, disappointing for him, down in 19th place, and his radio.
What the? Come on, man! What?
By the sounds like he's not particularly happy, is he?
I wonder what with. He did a last lap, but it wasn't very good, and it was very early for him as well. He was the first driver to come through, and Tsunoda clearly furious with something. And we've got a message saying Russell and Leclerc will be investigated for impeding. Now Leclerc, it's a big impeding, that one.
Yeah.
And penalty for Mr. Russell. Thank you, copy.
I mean, yeah, George was trundling along slowly on the exit of turn 19, and Charles Leclerc flies round the corner and and just manages to miss the back of the Mercedes. So yeah, I'd be surprised if a penalty wasn't thrown there.
And is that the lap that Leclerc's just done? Because he's gone, okay, well, he did a second run and Verstappen didn't, but he actually improved on his second run to be only 2,000ths behind Verstappen. He looked like he was on the limit on that lap. That was definitely a quali lap, wasn't it? And so I wonder if that was if he was kind of been impeded and gone within 2,000ths of Verstappen, can he? Or maybe he could.
It looked like he was fairly well bulked, didn't it? It looked like a slam dunk.
Damn, I don't know, just sliding around. Couldn't find the grip.
So not ideal for Bottas. His teammate is sitting there in 11th place, just over half a second off. But, you know, fair play to Stroll and Alonso. I said that maybe we won't see the Aston Martins pop up, but they obviously felt that they had time in hand with the track evolution.
Yeah, they put something together then, the two Aston Martins. So Bottas frustrated. He's out in 18th. Second time in 2 days that he's been beaten by his teammate. Yuki Tsunoda has only once in sprint qualies made it through the first part, and he's out already, trudging his way down to get weighed. And you might see a pretty angry driver down there soon, Rosanna.
Yeah, absolutely. He was furious on the radio, wasn't he, Yuki Tsunoda? I think the American audience here at the Circuit of the Americas are going to be pretty disappointed with that showing as well. Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen, of course, in the American team, Haas, both out. And we've come to sort of expect that Nico Hülkenberg, at least, can wrangle that car through the sessions of qualifying. But this car is totally new, really. We've been waiting for ages for them to bring this upgrade. It is not bringing them the rewards that they were hoping. And Logan Sargent, P20, when Alex Albon's managing to put a lap together to get himself up to P3. Just a huge delta between those two drivers currently.
We mentioned this yesterday, Andrew. Nearly 1 second between Sargent and Albon. He qualified last yesterday. He's starting at the back again today. Albon third place. What a lap from him.
Brilliant from Alex Albon. I mean, Logan Sargent, as we were discussing yesterday, Williams sort of feel like they're trying their hardest to find a reason to keep him, and he keeps not giving them. It's that's it in a nutshell, basically. I mean, that's just not good enough. You know, 3/4 of the way. Oh dear, got an AlphaTauri replay here impeding Hamilton.
I had to check my front wing.
Yeah,
one of the drivers blocked me and we touched.
Okay, we'll check that.
That was Yuki Tsunoda, I think, that was right in the way of Hamilton. Hamilton then tried to go round him, and Tsunoda went to the inside coming out of the penultimate corner. Maybe that was the source of the irate message from Yuki, not being given the information about the drivers behind. And he's another one that can expect a penalty. So Leclerc has already stated that Mr. Russell will be getting a penalty. Surely he will, but the stewards are going to be quite busy.
What was he doing? He blocked him once on the way into 19, and then he seemed to like drive offline and get in his way again.
It looked like he was trying to get out the way of him afterwards.
Yeah, it looked like that, and I think he was just trying to get a good position, some good track position, but obviously not paying enough attention to his mirrors.
And there's one thing when you're trying to line up a lap and everyone's on a slow lap to sort of jostle for position a little bit, but Hamilton clearly on a faster lap there, and Tsunoda pulling in his way. And I don't know if there was quite contact or not. It was very close. Obviously Lewis felt something, but he is safely through 9th position in that first part of qualifying, and it's now been noted. Let's see what have a look at.
So one of the interesting things about that session is that as well as the Aston Martins, also George Russell has made a big step forward from yesterday. He was off the pace of Hamilton, as we were discussing earlier, and didn't have an explanation for it. And I think it's a reminder that there's a lot, although in theory the cars have not been able to be changed since yesterday. They're in what's called parc fermé, so you're only allowed to adjust the front wing basically, but there are settings on the steering wheel the drivers can play with to do with the diff and things like that. And it's surprising sometimes how much of a difference those things can make to the behaviour of the car. If I think back to Baku last year, earlier this year, that was a turning point for the year. Max Verstappen stuck behind Sergio Perez, couldn't get past, was playing around with the various settings on the steering wheel, found a way to drive the car, which basically then put him on that run of 10 consecutive wins. So maybe the Aston Martins and Russell have been playing with those settings on the steering wheel and made surprisingly big changes.
Yeah, it's a good step that he's made so far. Got himself into the second part. The next one will be on the same set of tyres. The drivers now queuing up, and they are released as the light goes green for SQ2. And it is the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, the champion, who will lead his teammate and the rest of the field into this session. Hamilton's had a fairly curious form this year in sprint qualifying. Hasn't made SQ3 in 2 of them, when he's actually had very good qualifying the day before. Austria and Qatar last time out, qualified very well, turns up the next day and is bafflingly missing a bit of grip, and that was the case in Qatar. Obviously the cars can't really be changed too much, but on the medium tyres is a big factor as well. It looks like there's a little bit of consternation going down on the Mercedes car of George Russell, who waits in the garage. Fernando Alonso as well. 9 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock in SQ2. 6 drivers out on circuit: Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Perez, Zhou and Stroll, all getting on with it. The rest of them waiting. And now we see the second trickle of cars coming out of the garage. Just waiting 3 minutes then at the start of this one.
So Max Verstappen, he waited, didn't he, a while to go out in shootout 1, but he's decided to go out straight away in this session. He's then closely followed by Sergio Perez, who was 0.3 off his teammate, so he'll be looking to maybe get a little bit of a tow or try and learn something from following Max, but of course you don't want to run too closely because you don't want to be in that turbulent air. But the stewards have said that between Lewis Hamilton and Yuki Tsunoda, no further investigation.
Okay, so I think it was a slow lap actually for Hamilton as well. They were just jostling for position rather than a gross impeding. I think Russell will definitely be in more trouble for impeding Leclerc on a fast lap. Just 2,000 separated Verstappen and Leclerc, as you mentioned, Andrew, in that first part of qualifying. Yesterday 5,000 separated them, but Verstappen had his lap time deleted. So we're still poised for a very even fight here heading through this qualifying session. And Verstappen starts a flying lap on the medium tyres. Got to get a banker in now in the Red Bull. The times are really close as well, from 1st to 11th in that part of qualifying. Just 3.5 tenths. That's really, really small margins.
It is very small margins. You think that there's 20 corners on this track. Okay, you know, you could say 16, 17, 18 is fairly easy flat out, but you add that all up and it's surprisingly close for the amount of corners and for the length of the track. So everyone clearly right on the limit and doing a great job.
I think maybe a little bit over the limit was Max Verstappen on his first flyer here. We joined the Dutchman on board down towards turn 12, but I think he's crept over at turn 11 already. So this banker lap for him on the mediums should not count. Leclerc's just behind him on circuit. So the fastest 2 men so far this weekend out there trading blows in the first sector, but Verstappen is 2 tenths quicker. Leclerc similar pace to Sainz, similar pace to Perez as well. So the 2 Red Bulls and the 2 Ferraris out there setting laps early on. And Verstappen the fastest, but I think he'll lose this one for track limits. He's still flying through 16, 17, 18, all the way moving towards the right-hand side to prepare the 19 left-hander, where he went over track limits yesterday. The wider white line seems to be saving everyone now, and he's good through there. 1 corner to go for Max Verstappen. He'll go to the top of the times, being the first driver to set a lap anyway, and it's a 1 minute 35.181. That's a quick lap from Verstappen, 8 tenths quicker than he managed in the first part of this qualifying, but it'll be a matter of time, I think, before that one is taken off the clock. Jump on board with Leclerc, a couple of corners to go for him. He's slower than Verstappen in the first 2 sectors. Perez goes second, 35.7, so a big gap between the 2 Red Bulls, 6 tenths between them. Leclerc waiting for the front end to grip and turn in the penultimate corner, and again in the final corner. Looks like he's got a lot of understeer in the Ferrari, and he drives to the line, slower than Verstappen by 2 tenths, but he splits the Red Bulls.
Yeah, it didn't look great, did it, there out of the final corner, as his teammate now crosses the line. Just goes a 1.5 slower than Charles Leclerc. Max hasn't lost his lap just yet, so clearly they're having a review. The sound you can hear now is Oscar Piastri as he goes through this fantastic triple right-hander that is so flat out. Jolien, that must be so hard on your neck.
This circuit is tough physically for the drivers. It's another one that's going to be tough. High temperatures, not the humidity, thankfully, of Qatar, but long loaded corners, and 16, 17, 18, the right-hander that goes on forever really puts you through your paces around this place. Piastri gets on the board, and he's 5th, just behind Sergio Perez. So Piastri's still missing a bit of pace so far today. Norris, his teammate, comes across the line, jumps up to 4th. So 8 drivers with the time. It's Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Norris, Perez, Piastri, Stroll and Zhou. 7 drivers still in the pits, waiting it out.
Yep, they're obviously just waiting for those that are currently out there to evolve the track even more. And they want to only go for 1 run. So that puts a little bit more pressure onto them because they haven't got a second chance. They have got one lap to do it. As they're waiting patiently, Fernando Alonso, he'll be pleased that he's got into this second part of qualifying, but I think, will it be tough for him really, do you think, to get into the final part?
He did a good job in the first part of qualifying. Aston Martin have clearly found a little bit of pace. Alonso's happier. He's got just one run to try and do it, as has the Williams of Alex Albon, whose car you could hear there. Alonso's now released with Esteban Ocon. Both Alpines still in contention. They're leaving the pits right now. Had a good day yesterday. The Alpines, Ocon and Gasly, both through into the top 10. Gasly 7th, Ocon 8th. Few star celebs now joining the fray. Rory McIlroy here today, cheering on his team. Yeah,
he's down there watching in the garage as Esteban Ocon has a good look in his mirror. He's got a little bit of traffic coming up on the main straight. The team will of course be in his ear letting him know. Now he decides to head up the very steep hill in front of the very, very packed bank and grandstand. There's a lot of people here this weekend.
It really is a steep run up that first corner. The TV images never do the topography of the circuit justice, but this one is. You're just looking at the sky as you start ascending into Big Red, named after Red McCombs, the one of the original circuit stakeholders when this place was opened in 2012. Big Red and the Andretti, the first and the last corner, the only ones with corner names. One lap left, 3 minutes on the clock, and plenty of drivers with nothing on the board, so they're just going to go one flyer in this one. One of those drivers is George Russell, comes through the final corner and will wind it up. So Verstappen's time is stood, actually, from that turn 11 one. They seem to be seeing as okay, so maybe that one was millimetre right from Max Verstappen, who's still out there circulating. All 15 drivers on circuit, and Russell is starting, quite oversteering coming out of the first corner. Keep it pinned through the right-hander, down the hill then, through turn 2, over a crest into 3, into your fast sweeping corners 4, 5 and 6. Full commitment needed on the medium tyre for George Russell, but you cannot put a foot wrong. The times are close, the track limits are in play, and he has no time on the board, so there's a bit of pressure on here.
Yeah, there is. And actually just noting, those that have done a run already are actually doing 2 cool-down laps. So they're waiting to the very last part. They're trying to cool down those tyres as best as possible, but pretty much all of them, I think even including Max, they are doing 2 cool-down laps. So let's see if they've got some energy left and some temperature left in the tyres for them to do that final run.
Taking the last little bit of the benefit of track evolution as well, going right at the end. The 2 Ferraris came through the pits and are on an out lap right now. Russell 6/10 down on Verstappen through 2 sectors, so this is not a great lap, and Red Bull is going very, very slowly. Verstappen has had a moment in the first sector coming through turns 7 and 8. Has he had a spin there?
Yeah, it looks like he's gone on the dirt as well. His left-hand tyres were very, very dirty. It actually looked like it might have been coming out of 9. That was roughly where it was Piastri, wasn't he? He made a mistake there yesterday.
Yeah, Piastri had a huge moment. Verstappen is going again, but he is still top of the time. So that's the important thing for Verstappen, and he has not had that first lap time deleted. So replay with him now, and he just lost it after taking the curb at 9.
Oh, yeah, he's lucky, that he didn't hit the barrier. He spun and did a 360 and carried on, but he's also lucky that no one came round to collect him, because it's actually blind going over that crest. He just kissed that sausage curve, didn't he?
But I tell you what's really important, I bet you he's damaged the floor. There's a very high possibility he's damaged the floor, and if he has, well, maybe he has, it's hard to tell whether the debris that bounces up there is the car or the gravel and dust and stuff. If he has, that's going to affect his chances of pole in the next session.
We will see in just a moment. His time still stands at the top. Alonso's got up into 8th position. More times, everyone on a final lap right now. So Fernando Alonso up into 8th. George Russell is up into 7th. All are still vulnerable, with Albon, Ocon, Hamilton down in 13th without a time. Gasly and Ricciardo all needing to put a time on the board. Through comes Esteban Ocon through the final corner. He's down in 12th, needs a time on the board, jumps up to 9th, so squeezes Zhou down out in 11th. That Verstappen track limits one must have been so marginal as well. That's all that's keeping him in this at the top spot. The checker flag is out. Hamilton comes across the line and is 8th. just half a tenth down on George Russell. So both Mercedes at the moment in the top 10. Pierre Gasly sliding out of the final corner, desperate to put the power down, goes up to 7th. Alonso 10th. Ocon is out in 11th place. 3 drivers left on the circuit trying to improve. Zhou, Albon and Daniel Ricciardo, and Albon wringing the neck of the Williams coming through the penultimate corner. Did a great lap in SQ1, Alex Albon. Drives to the line now in SQ2 and he's up to 10th. Alonso is out once again. Here comes Zhou in the Alfa Romeo. He's gone in 14th, so it's all on Daniel Ricciardo now in the Alfa Tauri. Yuki Tsunoda out in SQ1. Here's the Australian. 2 corners to go. Down 1 gear through turn 19. 1 corner to go for Daniel Ricciardo. He was disappointed yesterday with his qualifying efforts. Drives to the line now. He's already beaten his teammate. He gets up to 11th in the end. Very, very close to going through, but it is no progression for Daniel Ricciardo. Fernando Alonso out in 12th place. Esteban Ocon 13th. Lance Stroll 14th. And Zhou is down in 15th and out. Alex Albon sneaks through.
He does, and a great job. And he'll be wishing that this was actually for the Grand Prix tomorrow and not the sprint, as Lance Stroll gets wheeled back into the garage, and he's only a 10th off his teammate, so I'm guessing he'll be fairly pleased. The sound you can hear is a replay of Stroll, so he's heading down the straight into turn 12. Oh, and he locks the rear and then locks the fronts.
Huge front lock-up, rear lock-up, everything locked up. I think he hit the brakes as he was just going over a bump, locked the fronts, and then weird to see the rears, the whole car squirming, lurching to the right-hand side, and that didn't look particularly pleasant for Lance. But as you said, Alice, within a 10th of Alonso, that's the benchmark that he's going for. Still not happy days down there at Aston Martin. Rosanna?
No, definitely not. And as Alonso comes into the pits, I've just been listening into Lance Stroll's radio, and he was complaining that the tyres were dead quite early on in that shootout too. So he's been struggling on the mediums. Of course, we now switch to the soft. So what does that mean for the soft tyre life in this next part of the shootout? I think it's going to be really hard to hang on to them.
Sorry for another P11.
Daniel Ricciardo, who I think he'd be quite happy with P11.
I was going to say he should be happy with P11, seeing he's had a few race weekends out. Obviously, he's extremely experienced, but that's still track time that he's been missing, and interesting to see how his hand is keeping up. You said about this track being fairly physical, certainly on your neck, but a good job by him as Zhou comes into the pits now. Lots of special helmets out there, isn't there, at the moment this weekend?
Yeah, there's so many drivers with special helmets. It's the era for special helmets, isn't it? Ricciardo 15th yesterday, Tsunoda 11th. So maybe that's what Daniel Ricciardo was referencing. 11th 2 days in a row for Alfa Tauri. Rosanna, what's going on in the pit lane?
Well, maybe he's referencing Liam Lawson's performances as well. Wasn't there an 11th there, thereabouts for Liam too, in races gone by? And he only missed out by 0.033, Daniel Ricciardo. I'm super impressed by Alex Albon's performance there, guys. I bet you are too. Yesterday, he could only manage P18, and he's through into SQ3. What has changed overnight? We know you're not allowed to change anything overnight.
No, well, he actually had quite, say, a lock-up. He didn't lock up a front tyre for his final push lap in Q1 yesterday. He just couldn't get the car slowed down, so he ran wide, and that was game over. So I think there probably was potential for a better result there, but he just messed it up going into turn 1. So maybe this is kind of the pace that Williams are expecting.
He was quick in practice as well, Albon. Was good here last year and has got that car into the top 10. He probably would rather be in the top 10 for the Grand Prix tomorrow than when only 8 drivers will get points later on, but it's good progress anyway, and heaps a bit more pressure on 20th place Logan Sargent in the other car. So we've got Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Norris, Perez, Piastri, Gasly, Russell, Hamilton and Albon into the top 10. It's the same drivers as yesterday, but Alex Albon is there instead of the Alpine of Esteban Ocon. The other 9 are the 2 Red Bulls, the 2 Ferraris, the 2 McLarens, the 2 Mercedes and Gasly. So it's actually quite similar in the end of it, but I would say Lewis Hamilton is looking a lot less competitive through the 2 sessions we've had so far, Andrew.
It's like Hamilton's fallen back to the level that Russell was at yesterday, isn't it? It's and I guess it just underlines how capricious that Mercedes car is. You know, all year they've been talking about, you know, one day it's great, the next one, well, never great, but one day it's okay, and the next day it's a bit rubbish. And today is one of those a bit rubbish days for Mercedes by the looks of it. It gets affected very significantly by changes in track temperature, wind direction, and so on, like a lot of Formula 1 cars do. And it's Hamilton's hope that they're going to get on top of that for next season. What was interesting yesterday, actually, was that both Mercedes drivers said that this update that they've got on this weekend, it's the first update they've actually been able to feel the difference it made in the car. Obviously the others have made a performance difference, but it's obviously made some kind of behaviour change to the characteristics that the drivers have both identified from the moment it went on the car yesterday lunchtime.
Hamilton's been a lot more effusive this weekend generally with the upgrades. Was more confident on Thursday, wasn't he, Rosanna, when he was speaking to you?
Yeah, he was. He was much more confident about it, saying it's one of the biggest upgrades. George Russell was being a little bit more cagey. And when I said to him, you know, George, what are you and Lewis hoping to feel from this upgrade? What do you need the team to have given you? And he said, to be honest, even if it feels awful and it's quick, it doesn't matter. So, of course, they're racing drivers. They just want to be as quick as they can be. But it was interesting yesterday, wasn't it, with George Russell saying that actually Saturdays on a sprint weekend are usually better for them, so I feel they will be frustrated with how things are going so far.
It's Hamilton that's dropped back more than Russell, I think, at this stage. But we have been on the medium tyres. Now we'll switch to the softs. 8 minutes left on the clock for this SQ3 session when we get going for the final part of the sprint shootout. We're still waiting for the clock to go green, and then we'll be on the soft tyres, and it'll be similar to yesterday. Conditions slightly cooler, but very similar drivers left in this. Green light goes, the pit lane is open, and we have a little wait for anyone to go out. And of course yesterday these soft tyres were barely getting around one flying lap in the high temperatures. A little bit cooler today, but no incentive for anyone to scramble out just yet.
Well, one of the characteristics of yesterday's qualifying session, which of course all was on soft tyres, was how particularly Leclerc and Hamilton were having to sort of, through the session, trying to work out what the optimum trade-off was between the first, second and third sectors to get that tyre through the lap on with the best possible lap time. Especially Hamilton, I think it was very obvious from that. Now they're heading into a different day. The temperatures are a little bit lower right now than they were yesterday by about 3 degrees, so the track temperature is also a little bit down. There's a bit more cloud cover, so the cars are probably going to behave differently, and they've got much reduced time to work out how to get that balance right on the tyres.
Everyone trying to learn from what they've done yesterday. This is where they can actually collect that information through practice. Most teams ran one set of tyres, one set of soft tyres. McLaren and Aston Martin, the 2 exceptions. Yesterday in qualifying, everyone churning through the softs, trying to get themselves a good place on the grid for the race tomorrow. The Grand Prix, the main event this weekend. Now we've done 2 runs on the medium. We're down to the top 10 drivers of this sprint shootout. And this is where they can learn. Back on the soft tyres then, temperatures rising slightly, but still cooler than we had yesterday afternoon. And what can they learn? What have they learned to try and unstable that pecking order? Verstappen and Leclerc were the 2 that were out front. 5,000 separated them, and a couple of millimetres of track limits for Max Verstappen, who ends up 6th on the grid tomorrow. It's going to be a mouth-watering prospect for him coming through there. He actually said might make the race a bit more exciting for him after that as well. The cheek of a champion.
The confidence of a man who's won from pretty much everywhere through the course of this year and the second half of last year. He was basically saying, I'm going to win it anyway, even though I'm starting 6th, wasn't he, Jolyon? And I'm afraid, in a way, that's what's taken the jeopardy and the excitement out of qualifying generally this year, I think. It's like, you know, in previous years, you know, if there was a car that was, and driver that was more, that was quicker than the rest, if they got beaten in qualifying, it was really exciting because there was potentially a prospect that they might not win the race. This year, Verstappen and Red Bull have been so dominant on Sundays that even if a Leclerc or a Hamilton or someone or a Piastri gets into the pole position for the Grand Prix, sprints have been a little bit different, like in Qatar. But for the Grand Prix, the extra length of the race, there's still no jeopardy because it's almost certain that Verstappen's going to come through.
He will start tomorrow behind 2 Mercedes, 2 Ferraris, and Lando Norris's McLaren. But yeah, he's not had a huge amount of challenges to come through the field, has he yet?
How long till he gets to the front?
That's the question everyone asks every weekend, and is normally the answer is about 6 laps, and he's coming through. I hope that it'll be better. The pace of the Red Bull is not blowing anyone away right now. He's just about clear of the field in this qualifying so far. He's just been launched from his garage with 4 minutes and 45 seconds left on the clock, 43, 42 and 41 seconds. So he's going to get enough time for actually maybe even a couple of flyers, but it will surely come down to just one on these soft tyres. And the pace of the Red Bull, it looks like in qualifying trim anyway, other teams are catching up. Ferrari really quick, particularly in the hands of Leclerc, who was nearly 2/10 quicker than Sainz in SQ1 and SQ2 here. Norris quick and perennially quick now in the McLaren. Piastri sometimes joining and was the star of maybe the Qatar weekend as well last time out. Won the sprint. Brilliant weekend for the rookie, who's not quite had the mojo yet in this weekend's running. First visit to Austin. Mercedes getting closer. Let's see if anyone can upset Max Verstappen and Red Bull again today.
Yeah, as everyone has sort of waited for that person to go first, and that is Max Verstappen. He's the one that's chosen to go, but they're only going to get one run here, and that is likely because we saw yesterday, didn't we, that the soft tyre really gave up if you tried to give it beans for a second flying lap. So Carlos Sainz is crawling out of the pit lane, trying to get the best track position as possible, and I would say that you want to leave it late, don't you, because we've seen how the track evolves, but the risk you run if you're leaving it that late is yellow flags and possibly a red flag last minute, which ends up ruining your qualifying session, especially with just over 3 minutes left to go.
Verstappen has gone very early though. He's into the final sector now already on his outlap. Russell is still in the pits. Hamilton's only just leaving the pit lane right now in the Mercedes, so he's going to catch a bit of traffic on this flying lap that he does. Everyone will be hopefully warned of flying cars coming up behind, otherwise there will be more penalties distributed by the stewards. You've got to get out of the way, of course. But Verstappen now comes through the penultimate corner on a very steady outlap with these soft tyres on, the fragile softs of this weekend. And here he goes into the first corner. He's actually sliding already out of the final corner, putting the throttle down, and he nearly lost it coming out of turn 20. That might cost him a little bit of speed, but it's a short run up to the first corner where he made a mistake in his final qualifying run yesterday. It's much cleaner for today for Max Verstappen, again using everything on the rear axle of the soft tyre, burying his foot on the throttle, and now coming into the high-speed corners. Full commitment, riding the curves, rumbling over them through 3, 4, 5 and 6. Through the left-hander of turn 7, up towards where he's just spun at turns 8 and then 9, bouncing over the curb, and it's a decent first sector for Max Verstappen on this flyer. Lando Norris just behind him on the circuit, coming through the high-speed corners himself. Yeah,
Lando's quicker. Lando is just over a tenth quicker in the first sector, so he's doing a really good job. He is the car that is then right behind Max Verstappen as Max heads down the straight. He's got a little bit of traffic in front of him. That's George Russell, but George is way out of the way going into turn 12 as Max stamps on the brakes. That might affect George. Needs to really technically go offline for this last sector if he wants to let Lando Norris through, but a really good first sector from Norris.
Verstappen through the middle sector now. He may well catch more traffic before this lap is out. He went very early. There's still a minute and 20 seconds left on the clock, but here he comes through the middle sector. Norris is not as quick as Verstappen in the middle, but he's within a tenth. They're neck and neck, Verstappen and Norris, on this first flyer. Piastri's not miles away either. Verstappen is through turn 19. He's within track limits, and now he's got one corner to go. He will not quite catch Lewis Hamilton, who starts a flying lap right now, and Verstappen is through. 1 minute 34.5, fastest lap of the day so far. But what about Lando Norris, the Brit? Through the penultimate corner, we jump on board with him for the final turn. Left-hander, medium speed, drives to the line, the shortest distance possible, and it's not pole position for Lando Norris. He's a tenth down on Max Verstappen, pretty much exactly a tenth. How about Piastri in the other McLaren? Leclerc's the fastest man in the middle sector. Let's watch out for Charles Leclerc, pole man from yesterday. Piastri's through and he's 3 tenths down in third position of 3 so far, but here's Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, he comes through this final section of corners. This is going to be so close Jolyon as he sweeps through. Now where Max got track limits taken away, Charles is easily in.
Sainz is there as well, just 1/10 down on Verstappen through 2 sectors. Leclerc, the fastest man through the middle part of the lap. They're neck and neck through the weekend, and it's not. It's 0.5 down on Verstappen, who looks like he's got pole position. Leclerc joining him on the front row for now. Sainz is going to be the next one through, and we're still waiting for the Mercedes and Sergio Perez to try and upset. But at the moment, is advantage Max Verstappen. Carlos Sainz to the line. What can the Ferrari do? The driver that's been just behind his teammate so far, he's 4/10 down in 5th position. Lewis Hamilton out there, but not doing a huge amount in the Mercedes. Looks like he's not quite got the pace of what he had yesterday. Perez through in 6th. Surely it's a Verstappen pole unless there's some magic left in for Lewis Hamilton. Drives to the line now in the Mercedes, and Hamilton goes 3rd. He's actually 7/100ths down on Max Verstappen, but it is going to be Verstappen on sprint pole today. Lost out by 5 thousandths yesterday. Russell's got to come to the line now in the other Mercedes. Can George Russell get himself up there and join his teammate? Russell comes through and he's 6/10ths down. So Verstappen is pole, is 0.5 between him and Leclerc, who've been trading the lap times all weekend, but it's smiles and congratulations at Red Bull. A little bit of redemption from yesterday.
Yeah, certainly is. But how often this season is it that we've seen the top 4 separated by 1/10 of a second? So close. Lewis Hamilton clearly so much happier on the soft tyres there compared to his teammate.
And that's P1 as well, fuel in hand as well, nice job.
Yeah, not bad, considering the issues, but all good.
Yeah, well done Max, that's 0.5 ahead of Charles.
Fuel in hand. So did they have a bit of fuel pickup issues? Is that why they sent the car quite as early as they did? Said he had enough time for a couple of flyers if he needed it, but he didn't. Managed to hook up the lap with maybe one more lap of fuel, maybe another couple of hundredths in there, but in a qualifying session of such fine margins, it was a strong display from Verstappen. But Leclerc's there again, 0.5 down. Hamilton, within 700ths in the end, managed to piece the lap together, was much more competitive on the softs. And here's his radio.
Good job, lads. This is an improvement. We're slowly getting there.
Seems upbeat. Lewis Hamilton 3rd yesterday, 3rd today. And he's got a good chance of hauling in Sergio Perez, let's not forget, for 2nd in the Drivers' Championship. Perez wound up 7th. Tough weekend for 1 lap pace once again for Sergio Perez.
0.5 second off. 0.5 second off his teammate. So not ideal when it's actually been really close. We said that earlier, the times around this circuit. So he'll be hugely disappointed once again, will Sergio Perez. But Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, if they can get a good launch off the line, I think we're looking forward to a very exciting sprint race.
Probably the same 4 standout performers, all within a 10th, or Norris just fractionally over a 10th away. It's nice to see a Red Bull, a Ferrari, a Mercedes and a McLaren all having a shot at pole position. Piastri winding up in 5th place as well, much stronger showing from him today. Was frustrated with how it went yesterday. Mistake in the final part. Will only start 10th tomorrow. Piastri getting 2 McLarens into the top 5. They're actually the first team there with 2 cars in the field, 4th and 5th for McLaren. But it's all smiles for the Verstappen fans, making amends for yesterday. We said we might have a nice prospect for tomorrow with Verstappen starting in 6th place, trying to charge through. He'll start today from the front, and he'll be speaking once again to James Hinchcliffe, IndyCar legend down in Parc Ferme.
Max, congrats on pole for the sprint this afternoon. It was so close though, only less than a 10th between the top 3. Was this just nice redemption after what happened to you yesterday?
Yeah, I think the whole day so far, you know, in qualifying, I think we were quite competitive. I think the last lap wasn't particularly great, but still on pole, so that means that, you know, the car was working quite well. And yeah, it's going to be, I think, an exciting afternoon where, you know, you can see a lot of different cars being very close to each other. So you don't really know what's going to happen in the sprint race.
With so little practice, not many teams got a lot of long running, high fuel running. So where do you feel like your car stacks up in race pace?
Yeah, that's right. It's all going to be a bit of a question mark. Overall, I do think that normally in the race we are quite okay, but nevertheless, this track is always quite demanding.
No, it's a 19-lap race, similar stint length to what we saw 2 weeks ago in Qatar, where the drivers were saying it was qualifying lap after qualifying lap. Is that the case here, or is tire management still going to come into play today?
Tire management is always quite key around here. The wear is always quite high because of all the high-speed corners, and then of course you're having to deal with the very low speed where you need traction. So yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, it's not going to be 19 laps of full throttle, let's say like that.
There you go. It'll be a nice Sunday cruise, hopefully, for Max Verstappen. Congrats.
James Hinchcliffe talking to Max Verstappen, who's fastest in the sprint shootout, meaning he will lead the field away in the sprint later on. But a little bit scrappy from Max Verstappen today. Of course, we saw track limits yesterday as well for him, meaning he lost that lap in qualifying proper. And then a spin, Jolyon. It's weird, isn't it? Sometimes we see this with world champions. They get the title under their belt, and then performance glitches, I'm going to call it.
He's just put it on pole though, Rosanna.
I know,
he has just put it on pole.
He has.
The one that I want to see is that track limits in the second part of qualifying, because if he wasn't over, that must have been millimetre perfect for him coming out of turn 11. It looks so tight, and that was just before he then spun on his next attempt. And that could have been the moment where it all got away for him, but it did not. He topped that part, and he topped the final part again, and he should be difficult to beat now later on.
But he is saying he's expecting a tough afternoon. More jeopardy, Jolyon.
Yeah, bring the jeopardy. Well, look, we're here for it if it is, but he's won everything pretty comfortably so far. He's missed 3 race wins this year, and when Max starts at the front, it's not often he's challenged this year.
And now we've got a little bit of a gap, haven't we, before the sprint? So is it time to just rest and recover, Alice? Can they be chatting with their engineers about what to do to improve their position come the sprint later on this afternoon?
Yep, hydrate, get some food in them, have a little bit of recovery. There's support races out on track, so maybe they'll catch a glimpse of that, maybe learn some overtaking. Not that they need to learn much, but yeah, we've had some exciting sprints, especially last time out in Qatar, and yeah, Max said he's going to have a tough afternoon, but possibly Charles Leclerc, he's technically got nothing to lose. He's going to want to move forward. Same with Lewis Hamilton. He's had great results here in the past. So I think we've got a very good sprint race coming up later on today.
Absolutely. Max says it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be entertaining for us. Big thank you to Andrew Benson, Alice Powell and Jolyon Palmer up in the commentary box. Max Verstappen then, fastest of all in the sprint shootout. The sprint will kick off later at 11 o'clock. Do join us then on BBC Sports Extra and the BBC Sport website. Hopefully you'll stay up for it. I'm sure it'll be worth it. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.